One basic, elegant definition of culture Ken Myers gives us is what humans make of what God has made. People get together in groups, for culture is always social, and they assign meaning to rivers, trees, mountains, sky, and sea, as well as other phenomena, human communication and behaviors. In this way, we may encode everything from secret gardens to sacred forests, perhaps a sacred grove, or practical manifestations like community gardens and timber forests for production of vegetables and wood. Humans also make patterned expressions in art and social life and religious practices, rituals, rites of passage, customs, institutions, all those come to mind. For instance, we have made various ways of titling and practicing Holy Communion / the Lord's Supper / the Eucharist. Now, as we noted earlier, Mormons have distinctive patterned expressions in cuisine, health practices, religious practices, and more. Let's look at some examples. Brother, sister, so-and-so. This community-wide way of greeting and referring to one another may get practiced in some places by some people in the traditional Christian world. In the Mormon world, it is institutionalized as standard operating procedure. We who live among LDS communities will regularly, consistently, and pretty much universally hear them addressing each other in this formulaic expression. For example, Brother Jensen or Sister Untermeyer. And not uncommonly, this spills over to us who live among them, who are non-LDS. So don't be surprised if you get called brother and your last name following, or sister with your last name when they address you. I suggest you feel complimented. Here's another one, trek. The one word trek. One rite of passage young people and adults engage in is called going on trek. No, we're not talking about space, the final frontier, and the mission to explore strange new worlds and boldly go where no one has gone before. No, it's not that. We're talking about a reenactment, in part, of the historic Mormon migration from 1847 to 1857 across the plains from Nauvoo, Illinois, by their pioneers following their leader, Brigham Young. The mission or purpose of going on trek now is to remember the resolve and sacrifice of their people in bringing them to resettle in what they came to call the New Zion, Salt Lake City. And then there's this one, the word of wisdom. This phrase refers to a passage of LDS scripture from the Doctrine and Covenants, section 89, and also as a shorthand title for the Mormon Health Code. In general and famously as currently interpreted, it forbids Mormons to use coffee, tea, alcohol, and tobacco in any form. Faithful LDS people will comply religiously with the code. LDS folk who do not comply are commonly referred to as Jack Mormons. Now here's one that leaps out from history with the single word, polygamy. The world over, Mormons seem to be known for this distinctive marriage practice in their early history, even though at its height, only 10% of Mormon men actually practiced it. For instance, a female Korean student we know said she was cautioned before leaving her homeland to study in Salt Lake City at the University of Utah to, and I quote, watch out that you don't become someone's second wife, end quote. This subject is sometimes overblown by traditional Christians and used as a point of ridicule, which usually backfires if one wants to build a trusting relationship with their Mormon friends. It's really a once and future phenomenon, to be honest. officially embraced in the past but now forbidden, and yet believed as part of official doctrine that it will be resumed in the afterlife. Usually it's a subject better avoided if you want to build bridges. And then there's family home evening. One of the programmatic practices of the LDS Church, family home evening, has the nuclear family spending time together in their home in reading their scriptures, including the Bible, teaching official beliefs to their children, praying together, and doing something fun together. The something fun can be a game or perhaps singing, and often traditionally the evening culminates in a treat like going out for ice cream. This endearing program explains why historically more ice cream has been consumed per capita each year in Salt Lake City than anywhere else in the country. And it does help families bond. And then there's something I'll call sugar and more. In the category of cuisine, Mormon cooking is not only marked by huge ice cream and sweet roll and cake and sugary punch consumption, but also by famous dishes like funeral potatoes, named for their common appearance at lunches following memorial services. The recipe for this potato casserole includes hash brown potatoes, butter, cream cheese, green onion, other cheeses, and mild spices. It's a mouth-watering combination, though probably not in your top 10 health foods list. Even among themselves, LDS people joke quite a bit about the practically ritualistic use of funeral potatoes, green jello, and red punch at church potlucks. So all in all, at this point, let's simply note there's a somewhat complex, and we might even say conflictual, set of traits in what Mormons make of what God has made. On the one hand, we see practices and values highly affirmed in American culture and even American Christian culture, such as family togetherness and a healthy diet. And on the other hand, some practices are so highly disaffirmed they fly in the face of American culture and especially American Christian culture. Things like polygamy and a legalistic dietary code. We may also note an insider orientation to such practices as going on trek, which implicitly reinforces the us and them mentality. It's an exercise in remembering our people that has sometimes made Mormons appear isolated and insulated from their Gentile neighbors. Finally, for now, we might simply say this. If we want to take seriously our missional endeavor to build bridges into the lives of people caught up in Mormon culture, we need to understand what that culture looks like in its characteristic traits and patterned dynamics. In this way, we can begin to learn their cultural language so we can speak the gospel in Mormonese.